Hello, Foster fam. Hey, welcome to this special bonus episode just in time for year's end. I think it's really important to do some kind of end of year wrap up and reflection, a celebration, and some vision casting. And I do a very specific process every year, and this is my 20th year doing this same activity. So I thought I'd just invite you into what I do and then encourage you to do a similar exercise. This will maybe be a little bit longer of an episode as I recap 2025 and look ahead to 2026. But I think there are some valuable lessons and takeaways for you sprinkled within my personal reflection. So things like consistency, leadership, learning deeply instead of chasing quick fixes, and how we can stay grounded when our work and our lives carry a lot of weight. Welcome to the Foster Your Voice podcast with me, Kristi Foster. After a 30-year career in music and theater, I never imagined I'd be coaching trial attorneys. But once I entered your world, I quickly realized how critical and underutilized voice is in the courtroom. The truth is, you don't win trials with brute strength. You win with your voice. I'll give you tools to unlock your voice so you can communicate not just with purpose, but on purpose. If you want quick action tips to help you stay calm and in control, keep jurors engaged, and inspire your listeners to action, all through the power of your voice, you're in the right place. I'm Kristi Foster, and I'm here to help you foster your voice. As I said, every year I do a recap for the year, and I set some intentions for the upcoming year. I recently heard Mel Robbins on her podcast say something to the effect of that you can't know where you want to go unless you really take stock of where you are. So that's the recap part of things. And then if you've been in the fam for a while, you'll know I'm a part of John Acuff's community, which is all about goal setting, dreaming, planning, doing, and reviewing. So that's the intentions part, this goal setting, moving forward. What do I want next year to look like? So let's start at the top of my list. It's called Shows I Participated in. And you'll likely know by now that I have an extensive music and theater background. And for 30 years, I have been part of shows and concerts, recitals, theater classes, etc., and functioning in different kinds of roles, from director to choreographer to performer. So as I look at my recap for this year, it's the first time that I have not had any shows on the list. This is significant and worth noting because it shows this important shift in my professional efforts and energy and investments. It's not that the door is closed and locked shut, but a page has definitely turned, and doing shows is no longer my artistic and professional priority. Life kind of offers us seasons. We don't always know how long each season will be, but there are shifts to our focus, and there are times where we can say yes or no intentionally. If we pay attention, we can respond to these seasons with intention and make choices that support what we want or need most right now. It's a real benefit of adulthood. We can be purposeful with our time, our energy, our creative outlets, and the work that we give ourselves to. So there are just some seasons where we change our focus. So that's the first category. The next category is shows, concerts, and art I attended or that I took in. Now, even though my participation in shows is shifting a little bit, I still draw tremendous inspiration from attending productions, lectures, comedy shows, concerts. Anytime I can see masterful communication that draws in an audience suspends our disbelief, and connects the audience as one. I place high value on that. I don't just enjoy it, I study it. So for me, I saw all the national tours come through from Broadway that come through Portland. And I attended high school and community theater productions, as well as a couple science lectures for good measure. Now, as attorneys, while I'm not suggesting that you try to stage a production in the courtroom, I don't think it's a big stretch to understand the intrinsic value of artful storytelling and the need to craft inspiring communication so the jury can form a group like an audience and you can step into leadership. Next up were the sports moments I enjoyed. If you've been following along with the podcast, you know that I've increased how much I talk about sports through the years. Now, I continue to be just as surprised as everybody else with just how much of a sports person I've become this year. I watch, of course, all the big moments that come around every year, like all the cycling races in the spring, the grand tours. I did a whole series on how trial work is very much like the Tour de France. So go back and listen to the July podcasts for that. And then, of course, I watch football, and we get multiple games a week and the Super Bowl. Now, this year, I added in March Madness. And in the spring, I did a whole series about March Madness and what I was learning from the players. And I knew nothing about any of the teams or the college programs, but I watched every single matchup. There was one thing that just kept me riveted to the TV. One thing that made me keep wanting to study these athletes. And that was just how skillful they were at failure. Sure, there were tons of successes as well, but how they handle things going wrong is remarkable. In the courtroom, there are lots of variables and things that can go different than how you practiced. Technical difficulties, objections, points that you can see just are not landing with the jury. And it's really easy to obsess over those and let them throw you into a negative self-talk spiral. This is where we can draw some inspiration from the athletes. They don't have time for spiraling. They recover instantly, recalibrate, and get right back in there. Sure, they're going to review the tapes later, but boy, do they know how to release guilt and shame before they spiral and just get right back in the game. And that distinction between reflection later and recovery now, that's what really stuck with me. Forward momentum. So impressive, and some really valuable lessons for me and for you. Now, classes and trainings were part of my 2025. I can't help it. I'm an eager learner. I loved school. I like learning new things and honing the skills through classes, online communities, and coaching. Super valuable. I put that at a premium in my life. This year, however, was more about leaning into what I had curated for myself in 2024. I became very selective about the voices of teachers that I listened to. I've been very intentional about who I allow to be my influencers. With our human nature, I think that we are on the hunt for quick fixes, plug and play, easy answers. It's so easy to get caught up in the constant searching, the flitting from course to course, or in your case, maybe from CLE to CLE, in search for the answer, the thing that will create exponential growth and success for you. I get it. My takeaway from 2025, though, and my encouragement to you, is that it is critical to complete learning cycles rather than just take in new information. Meaning, we all need a safe and nurturing place to learn, but then we need to practice and receive feedback and practice some more in order to assimilate the knowledge. Without that full cycle, learning stays theoretical instead of transformational. Knowledge acquisition is good, but knowledge assimilation is what actually leads to growth, personally and professionally. It's the messy middle where we allow for challenge and discomfort, where growth actually happens. Okay, next category is places I traveled. Now, in May, I traveled to one of my favorite cities, Nashville, Tennessee, because I was invited to be the featured presenter at the Class of Our Own Women's Conference. Big thank you to Jean Martin, Kelly Hyman, and Dawn McPherson for bringing me out and welcoming me among all those seriously badass class action lady lawyers. Phenomenal conference, and we had the best time. And then in July, I was invited to speak to the Birth Injury Litigation Group at the AAJ conference in San Francisco. What an incredible group of heroes. Heroes! Seriously, their work is so sad, and they just step up with such courage. Those folks were amazing. They are amazing. And the conference was huge. And it was fun getting a chance to connect with other clients and friends throughout the whole weekend. Now, self-care is big on my personal agenda, and this takes the form of staycations or just kind of local-ish trips. My favorite hot springs resort reopened this year after being closed for like 10 years to the public. So very excited about that. And I got a couple beach trips in with the family and some friends a couple of times for just some rest and restoration. I just love the Oregon coast, and we just needed those times away. Hey, real quick, if your jurors look confused when you say liability, standard of care, or damages, they're not tuning out because they don't care. They're tuning out because they don't speak law. I've put together a free guide called Top 20 Legal Terms to Avoid and What to Say Instead. It'll help you simplify your language without losing credibility, so your message actually lands. Download it now at fostervoicestudio.com/top20 or click the link in the show notes. All right, back to the episode. Now, each year on my list, I like to highlight the people who particularly enhanced my life during that year. This always includes what I call my inner circle, as well as some faithful friends who really sustain and refresh me, and some of the coaches who uniquely invest in me throughout the year. I also include new relationships that blossomed throughout the year, like my accountability partners and my book club ladies. I want to just slow down here for just a second, though, to give a special shout out to my coaching clients and the folks that have allowed me to partner with them in their trial prep. I really cannot express enough just how honored I am to work alongside of you in strategizing your teaching, your storytelling, your courtroom communication tactics. The curiosity, the courage, the willingness to just experiment that you bring into our sessions is deeply touching to me. Thank you, thank you, thank you for playing along and being willing to stretch yourself for the sake of your clients and for the sake of potential jurors that will need to learn from you. You do amazing work, and I'm just so pleased that I get to play even just a small part in all of that. Okay, the last few sections here. Of course, a recap wouldn't be thorough if it didn't also include some of the sorrows and the losses throughout the year. Grief is an ever-present entity in our world, and celebrating the lives of beloved friends and family is a tremendous honor. It's important to acknowledge also how grief coexists within our professional lives, especially for attorneys. I mean, you are confronted with terribly tragic situations and are consistently navigating the impact of grief. It's a complex journey, and you demonstrate such fortitude of spirit on a daily basis. You carry your clients' sorrows and losses with poise and with grace, and grant them dignity in the process. Truly, it's beautiful work. There are also accomplishments and celebrations to recognize. And I've already mentioned the Class of Our Own conference and the AAJ opportunities, but I was pleased to do some virtual trainings to the From Hostage to Hero group and for the North Carolina Women's Caucus. So thank you for having me as one of your guest speakers. And as a side note, if you or your organization needs a speaker for your events in 2026, please reach out. I'll put the link in the show notes for how to contact me for any speaking or training opportunities, either in person or virtually. And not to toot my own horn too much, but I wanted to celebrate that I created and produced 50 episodes of this podcast. Now, even though it seems, especially since the pandemic, that everyone and their mother have podcasts these days, I tell you what, there's a lot that goes into it, and being consistent is a challenge. So, good job, me. Pat on the back. Okay, celebration moment over, but this is your cue to make sure to leave a 5-star rating and a quick review to share with me and others how you have enjoyed our weekly visits. Please do that. Next up is new experiences that I had, like learning how to make homemade pho. I thought it was this big mysterious thing that is a family secret, but nope, I learned how to do it, and it's actually pretty easy in my Instant Pot. I'm now entering into my lentils and beans era because, fiber. And I've really enjoyed exploring my neighborhood trails and paths as I became an outdoor exerciser. That might seem like a small thing, but it was no small thing for me. So notice, these are not work-related. These are life-related. I need a healthy dose of what I call otherness in my life because I know how easily I can just get focused on work and just kind of get sucked into that all the time. I love my work, and so I want to give a large portion of my time and energy to it. But I also have to prioritize non-work related content just to balance things out a little bit. Okay, now let's just blitz through the end of this recap here. Books. This year was my cozy murder mystery year. TV shows. I binge my way through espionage hits like The Diplomat and Night Agent and Slow Horses, but also cooking competitions that I watch with my mom, and the show that brings me the most joy, the most laughter, and is actually an integral part of my daily self-care is the show Taskmaster. Do yourself a favor, check it out on YouTube, Taskmaster. For movies, I rewatched all the Jurassic movies in preparation for the new release that came out this year. And then for podcasts, I loved getting introduced to Good Hang with Amy Poehler and Family Trips with the Myers brothers this year. I think in general, I have been managing anxiety in a little bit of a different way this year. And I just sought out the things that brought me light and life and just joy and laughter. So super important to me to surround myself with those things. So just to zoom back out to the process again, finally, after I've done my recap, I move on to my intentions. I look at the intentions that I set in the previous year, 2024 into 2025, and then I assess. Did I do them? Did I not? And the added layer of grace is to recognize intentions that seemed good at the time, but as I auditioned them, I realized they just weren't right for me. Either just in this season or maybe never. This year, I had a mix of all three: the dids, the didn'ts, and the I release it. And after I assess the previous year, then I set my intentions for the incoming year. For 2026, I intend to continue with my exercise goals and my business goals. And I'm dreaming big about how Foster Voice Studio can grow and how I can increase my contribution and impact for the attorneys that I work with. Oh, and I want to do fantasy football for the first time this year. So if you have any guidance on how to get into that for 2026, be sure to let me know. Now, consistency was my word of the year for 2025, and it pleases me to see all the ways that I built in some structure and some accountability in order to be consistent, and all the ways that it was a challenge to be consistent. So be sure to tune in on January 5th for that episode. It's the first episode of season 2 of the Foster Your Voice podcast to hear what my word of the year will be for 2026. It's the word that will set my theme for the year. Now, this was just kind of an overview of my yearly process and a few of my takeaways. If you want to see my complete list of 2025, a recap, 2026, an intention, I'll put the link in the show notes. I just touched on a few things here, but I invite you to use it as a template to create your own list. You don't have to do it my way, but just do some way on purpose. Change whatever categories you want and fit the things in that will keep you on track during the year. It's a practice, so be sure to let me know if you end up doing it. Thank you for being part of the Foster fam. And until 2026, keep fostering your voice. Thanks for pulling up a seat with me today and for being part of the Foster fam. Make sure you're subscribed to the podcast so you don't miss a single episode. And while you're at it, go ahead and leave a review or a comment so I can give you a shout out on a future episode. During the week, you can find me on Instagram at Foster Voice Studio, where I'm dropping little nuggets of vocal technique and leadership wisdom. You can also join my mailing list by visiting fostervoicestudio.com or by clicking the link in the show notes. I'll send a weekly vocal tip every Tuesday directly to your inbox. Until then, keep fostering your voice.